Good afternoon. This is the International Arbitrage on the 12th of October 2023. And so today I want to talk a bit more about trusts. And look, I see a lot of different families, people doing trusts. The trust industry is massive. There's nothing new about this, but for those of you who already have trusts, especially international trusts, and are doing estate planning, a lot of people are talking about generational wealth and all these things nowadays, and there's a lot of social media talking about, you can do the same thing as wealthy people, and so on and so on and so forth. I just want to say to be aware of this. So, say for instance, in my family, I have two kids, two daughters. One is 10 years older than the other. That's my family dynamic. We have a family-owned business. Both of my daughters, one of them is in another country. She lives there. She's been to university. The younger one is with me, where we live in Barbados. She, like most teenagers, are interesting. She doesn't understand the concept of parental authority. She's not bad behaved or anything like that, but we often have many arguments after dinner at night about that. And so for my family, say for instance, for my family trust, when I have to think about all the things that I need to do for my family trust, because I have a trust set up for my family, I have to take into account the difference between my kids, and the nature of my family is very specific. I have, I'm a lawyer, with all the things that entails. My kids are 10 years apart. One is more of a traditional, very focused academic / perfectionist. The other one is busy working up theories to challenge parental authority. And she won't be a renegade, but she's going to certainly be some sort of a radical, which is fine, So I have to, as a parent, I have to think about these things. I have to adjust for that. Like all other parents, I have to work to communicate with my kids, to stay relevant, to be able to have a communication with them, to be able to, interact with them, know what's on their mind, really know them as time goes along. It's work. It's not easy. And so coming back to having a trust, my trust structure, my estate planning, my arrangements, all these things have to, facilitate, have to work with my family, with my kids. Now, what I will say is that in my family, so it's me and 3 women, girls. And so what's the dynamic there? Well, one of my kids is going to be okay with, say, trustee authority, and one of them isn't. So I can see that already. Right? One of them is going to like the fact that there's some trustee telling her this, telling her that. Of course, the trust will remain as, it will do what it's supposed to do. And there is no doubt. But at the end of the day, we're not here to, we're here to do better for our kids and try to, leave them better off than, say, for instance, where we came through. But the point is that you have to take into account your situation, your life, your family. Your family is unique, and that's so you have to put these kind of things in it. So my message here to everyone doing trust is, look, obviously the cheapest way to get a trust is basically to buy, get a lawyer to set up essentially what's a template, do very little chopping and changing, put a trust in place, and you know what? That's fine. If that's what you want, that's okay. But keep in mind, what's good for one family is not necessarily good for another family. Does that really work? Is that really going to work for you and your family? Really wealthy families, I don't know if you know any, but if you know any really, really wealthy families, again, families don't often talk about their innermost dealings, but you might have a mentor or someone who's done this before, or you might know somebody who's really wealthy. You don't have to talk specific, just talk to them generally. really wealthy families, when they set up trusts, like these trusts are highly engineered. Sometimes really wealthy people have things like family offices where they have full-time employees working on their stuff year after year after year. Okay, then there are other wealthy families who basically have like their lawyers, they hire lots of lawyers, or they have lawyers on tap all year, and this have people working on their stuff constantly thinking about the family dynamics, and working with them and chopping and changing. And of course, really wealthy families like billionaires. Now, I've never had any clients like billionaires. I've only seen, billionaires and all this kind of stuff on TV, or maybe walk past them in the street or in the club or something like that. But I don't have any clients that are billionaires. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know exactly, but I've read like newspaper articles, right? I've seen, like, say for instance, English aristocracy with their full-time barristers, family barristers. It's the same principle, full-time family barrister. Who knows, everybody in the family is working with the principal to fine-tune the trust arrangements and all these things to make sure that what is put in place is, finely attuned to the requirements of the parents, their children, their family, their situation, the type of business that they're in, the amount of wealth they have, so on and so on and so forth, right? So say for instance, if you have a child who is clearly slightly disabled or not, fully able to take care of themselves, but they're really wealthy, well, for sure, you're going to want to set up the type of trust where that protects them from deceivers and people who are going to be deceptive and who want to essentially take advantage of them. And that is going to require a situation that is going to require a lot of planning and thought and using the experience of lawyers who've done this type of thing before. So there's a lot of things that you have to do depending on the type of family and children and situation that you have. But a lot of people set up trusts which have zero customization specifics for their family. And I just want to make sure that you guys understand that that's okay, because sometimes, that's all we can afford. But I think that over time, people can afford to make small investments in their trust. Don't just leave it and come back to it 10, 20 years later, because you have to think about these things over time and adjust as you go along, right? So definitely remember that, don't just get a trust template, set it up for your family, and then force your family, whatever they are, to fit into, don't do the whole square peg in a round hole type thing. That's not the way it goes to be. You don't have to have a family office or a lawyer on tap or whatever. You know what? Do it yourself. You can read about powers of appointment, future interests, all these other sophisticated things that can apply to trust and tax law. You can read about gifts and all these things. You can read them. There are tons of books, information out there. Take your time, do a little bit of homework, and then, when you do homework and you're more prepared, right, then you can go into your lawyer. It costs less. Or go to your lawyers and pay them to do things over time. Small amounts of money, but over time. It might take you 5, 6, 7 years to really fine-tune your trust as best you can. But don't just buy your trust, $5,000 to set up, $5,000 a year for trustee fees, and think that you've hit pay dirt. Because your family is unique, and you have to think about yourself, you have to think about your kids, you have to think about your wife, and if you have a wider family, you're dealing with human beings, right? Human beings, as you well know, can, they operate on a spectrum. So, don't just set up a cookie cutter trust and leave that to torture your kids, torture your family, because, at the end of the day, the reason why you're doing all this is because you love yourself, you love your family, and you want what's best for them in this world that we live in. And a trust is meant to help you do that. You don't need to be rich, wealthy. There's self-education. Do it over time, but definitely apply yourself. Take the time, get to know your trustees, invest in getting to know your trustees, put time in. It's like anything else in life. Put the time in, okay? All right, that's it for now on trust, and the international arbitrage will be back